yet. But anyway, that's my investigation for later.
With it, you need to get out of the game, or you need to basically like suck it up and like this is what it is. If you're going to go after these people, you have to basically be mentally strong around this. And seeing her have that realization helped me have the same realization. And I really deeply admire and respect that about her. And it solved a lot of my concerns around that. It just made me realize every profession has risks. It is what it is. You mitigate and then you move on.
Why do you think there's so few journalists like you? You're basically the embodiment, at least in the space you operate, of what great journalism should be. Why do you think there's very few like you?
That's such an enormous compliment and probably overstatement. But I first want to pay respect. There are a lot of great journalists, and a lot of them are like, I don't want to just kind of take it and go, yeah, it's just me. There's so many great journalists. Matt Levine, Kelsey Piper, you've got anonymous journalists like Dirty Bubble, you've got citizen journalists like Tiffany Fong.
So
But,
who?
but,
Yeah. Mhm.
but I think if you're going to be in this space in the long term, you do need to. And I feel like a lot of people, when they get notoriety, they move to like, well, I can just maximize the money security side of things. And I think it takes out a lot of would be great journalists.
And also, so first of all, comfort of physical and mental well being,
Yes.
and also being invited to parties with powerful people.
Access.
You make enemies, rich and powerful enemies, doing this.
Yes.
But that's why it makes it. That's why it's admirable. I mean, it's an interesting case study that you've been doing it as long as you have, and I hope you keep doing it. But it's just,
Lesson you can learn if you're a logical human being is that you should never whistleblow on the United States government after looking at what they did to Snowden. So, as a society, we can put pressure on lawmakers to make it easier for people to do the great work by not punishing the people who do great work, if that makes sense, and de-risking it for them. Because we shouldn't expect journalists to be martyrs to do great work, right? To do important work. And part of that comes from protecting whistleblowers. There's like very common sense things. I love like it's great to heroicize, people like Edward Snowden and stuff like that, but we shouldn't expect them to be heroes to do that work.
do you ever think about going? You've been focused on financial fraud.
Mhm.
Do you ever think about going about after other centers of power, like uh,
Government,
government,
politics.
politics?
Politics, it seems to me you can't do good work. Um, like everybody doing good work in politics is to some extent, from my limited perspective, as I said, I'm not that into it. It seems like everyone has to take a side because even if you do great work, whoever you're exposing, half the other people, no matter how good your work is, are going to claim it's just for partisan hackery and they're going to malign you. So it seems like a lot of journalists have to take a slant, even if it's not explicit like bias.
Mhm.
They have to take a slant on who they expose. I hate that. I would really like a world where you could freely expose both sides without having a constant malignment of like, or who are you working for or you did this for XYZ or whatever. Like I really find that deeply problematic about our current like journalism in the political sphere. As far as government stuff, I think it's easy to do, not easy, but like it's much more into your entire life is like sort of in jeopardy. Whereas if you do foreign journalism, you can do great work and largely you're protected by your own government. So it's kind of this weird thing where if you want great journalism on America, sometimes going abroad might be might be the way to go.
But the politician thing that's interesting. You mentioned that and going abroad. I think the way you think about your current work, I think applies in great journalism in politics as well. So what happens? And I have that sense because I aspire to be like you in the sort of in the conversation space of like with politicians. I try to talk to people on the left and the right, and do so in a nonpartisan way and criticize, but also steelman their cases. What happens, I've learned, is when you talk to somebody on the right kind of brings you in. It's like, yes, we'll keep you comfortable.
Mhm.
Come with us, and then the left attacks you, and so and the same happens on the left. You talk on the left, the right attacks you,
Yeah,
and the left is like, "Come with us." So like, there's a temptation, a momentum to staying to that one side, whatever that side is. The same with foreign journalism. You can cover Putin critically. There's a strong
correct.
pull to being pro Ukraine, pro Zelensky, pro basically really covering in a favorable way to the point of propaganda, to the point of PR, the Zelensky regime. If you criticize the Zelensky regime, there's a strong pull towards then being supportive of not necessarily the Putin regime, but a very different perspective on it,
Sure.
which is like NATO is the one that created that war. There's narratives that pull you, and what I think a great journalist does is make enemies on both sides and walk through that fire and not get pulled in
Yeah.
to the protection of any one side because they get so harshly attacked anytime they deviate from the center.
Well, and I think also, like, there's a criticism of all centrists, which I think in some way is fair, and I say that as someone largely who's a centrist, which is that this what about is or like this, like, what about the left or what about the right can skew when it's not a both sides issue. So, in the case of, like, Russia, Ukraine, I think, like, I'm strongly in favor of Ukraine, even though I tend to go, like, on both sides, and that might be partly because one of my employees is Ukrainian,
Mm.
and I think what a great journalist does, especially, like, in politics, is I think they criticize the regime that's most in power, most that controls the keys, and is the most corrupt at that time. And they might appear to be like, let's say during the realm of Trump, a great journalist would criticize Trump, but that same journalist who held Trump's feet to the fire should be capable of holding Biden's feet to the
Mm,
fire 4 years later,
mhm.
if that kind of makes sense.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So any revealing any so attacking any power center for the corruption, for the flaws they have. No,
Irrespective of, like, your political agenda or your political ideas. Yeah.
so that and that's what I mean about sort of the war in Ukraine. There's several key players: NATO, Russia, Ukraine, China, uh, India. I mean, there's several less important players, maybe some of the like Iran and like Israel and maybe Africa. And what great journalism take requires is basically revealing the flaws of each one of those players, irrespective of the attacks you get. And you're right that throughout any particular situation, there is some parties that are worse than others,
Yeah.
and you have to um, weigh your perspective accordingly. But also, it requires you to be fearless in certain things. Like, for example, I don't even know what it's like to be a journalist covering China now.
Oh,
It's like,
that's an exact case of, like, China has made it so difficult to be a good journalist that they've effectively squashed criticism because to be a journalist in China means constantly risking your life every single day to criticize that government. And so the best journalists are a lot of times outside the country, or they have sources inside the country who are like, there's like this, you know, there's layers to the journalism where there's insiders who are leaking information, but they themselves cannot publish because it's like you know it's extremely risky. So yeah, I think as a society, one measure of how healthy the political structure is how well you can criticize it without fearing for your safety.
in that sense, the chaos and the bickering going on in the United States politics is a good thing. That
Yeah,
people can criticize very harshly
very harshly.
and be, in terms of safety, are pretty safe.
Yes, absolutely. I think our only challenge is like where it gets dangerous is around like top secret information. The government comes down so hard that the danger in covering politics here is you can expose something that's top secret that should be exposed and they'll ruin you.
So that's where you again give props to Snowden for stepping up.
100%. 100%.
What's the origin of the suspender wearing Batman? How did you come to do what you do? Like, what we
Sure.
talked about where you are and how your mind works, but how did it start?
I've kind of always been interested in fraud, or at least I saw fraud early on and I was just like curious about what is this? I didn't know what I was really looking at. So basically my mom got cancer when I was in high school and it was pretty traumatic. I mean, she's fine. She had thyroid cancer, which is we didn't know it at the time. It's like cancer's cancer, but it's fairly easily treatable with surgery. It's one of the better, survivable ones. And I just watched her get, like, bombarded with all these, like, phony health scams of, just, like, colloidal silver, all these different, like, remedies. And she was very into, all the different ways that she might treat her cancer. And obviously, surgery is very daunting. And, I was just confused. I was like, "Why are we doing so many different remedies that all seem of very dubious health value?" Later, I'd find out that these are, like, all grifters. I mean, they take advantage of free speech in America to, like, advertise their products as, life-saving miracles, whatever, when they're, of course, not. Eventually, she got the surgery, thank God, but I know people in my life who their parents passed away because they didn't have the surgery. They instead took the alternative option. I know, like, I don't wanna go into specifics because I don't wanna mention their specific, like, case, but their, family member went to Mexico for some alternate treatment, health treatment, instead of getting an easy surgery, and they died. And so it's like, I realized, where is the outrage about this? Where's the who covers this stuff? And I realized, well, not many people do. Then I went to college. I was getting a chemical engineering degree, and all my friends were like telling me, hey, you should come to this meeting. We don't need this. Like, you're doing this engineering stuff. That's great. You're going to make like 70K a year. But don't you want to get like rich now? Like, why wait till you're 60 years old to retire? Like, you can be rich now, Lex. So I'd go show up to a hotel and there'd be an MLM, like multi-level marketing, pitch for uh Amway or whatever it was that day. And I was once again fascinated. I didn't know what I was looking at, but I was like, what is this weird game we're all playing where we sit in this room, we're looking at the speaker who says he's so successful, right? But why is he taking a Friday or a Saturday to do this, pitch at night? And they're going to telling me I'm going to be financially free, but they're working on their Saturday and Sunday.
Mhm.
And so it's like, how financially free are they? So I was just like confused. I was like, none of my friends were rich. They all said they were going to be rich. No one ever seemed to get rich. And so I was sort of baffled by what I was looking at. Later, I graduate. I had no interest in doing engineering, which we can kind of get into, but I wanted to do something in media. Um, and I started covering a variety of topics, but eventually I sort of revisited this interest in fraud and I started talking about these kind of get rich quick grifters that were online, sort of the Ty Lopez variety, 67 steps or, whatever, like 5 steps to get rich, 5 coins to 5 million, these get rich quick schemes that a lot of people were interested in. No one seemed to get rich once again, except for the people at the tippity tippity top selling the get rich quick thing. And I was like fascinated by the structure of it. And I was like, does nobody see what this is? Like, does nobody get it? So I started making a series of videos on that. And the response was like palpable. I mean, it was like, I've made a lot of stuff before that. I'd made stuff that got 1 million views. I'd had like some marginal success. But the response of, like, the emails that came in, I could tell this work, even though it had far less views at the time, was having a different level of impact, and that's what I was really interested in. One of my problems with engineering was, from my standpoint, I did chemical engineering at Texas A&M, and, like, I was like, "Is my future just gonna be in a chemical plant improving some process by 2%, and that's, like, my gift to the world?" Like, I didn't see the hard impact, and that maybe that's a lack of imagination because chemicals matter, but I wanted to see an impact in the world, and so when, like, I did started doing this fraud stuff, exposing fraud, I, like, clicked in my brain, I was like, "Whoa, this is kind of doing what I want to do," and so I started posting videos. At first, it really focused on like get rich quick scheme, grifty advertising, which I think is super predatory, and we can go into why. But it eventually graduated to crypto, and it snowballed, I guess, because now we're talking to Sam Bankman-Fried.
Okay, grifty advertising. So actually, just a step back. What is a multi-level marketing scheme? Like what? Because I've experienced a similar thing. It's like I remember I worked at I sold women's shoes at Sears, in a bank, and I just remember like some kind of I forgot the name of the company, but you can sell like knives or whatever. Like that's a was common.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
I'm sure there's a lot of things like this, right? And I
Yeah,
remember
there's a
feeling a
big one though.
similar thing like, why? To me, what was fascinating about it is like, wow, like human civilization is a interesting like a pyramid scheme. Like I didn't know the words for that, but it's like it's cool. Like you can like get in a room and you convince each other of ideas and you have these ambition. There's a general desire, especially when you're young,
Mhm.
to like life sucks right now. Nobody respects you. You have no money. And you want to do good and you want to be sold this dream of like if I work hard enough at this weird thing, I can shortcut and get to the very top.
Yes.
I don't know what that is, and I also in me felt that like life really sucks, and I could do good, and I'm lucky. I found a way to do good. I'm like, and I don't know. You connect with that somehow. I think there's like this weird fire inside people to like to make better of themselves, right? I don't know if it's just an American thing or if it, but anyway, that was fascinating to me from a human
Well,
nature perspective.
grifters play on this though, right? Like this is so the best salesmen play on true narratives that you already believe. So the true narrative is, life is unfair. It is tough. Um, the American dream, as described by go to a job, work at the same company for 40 years and then retire to a safety net that you're positive is going to be there, that is largely dead. And so they like play on those fears and those problems to then sell you a pill, a solution, a thing. And the problem is that the solution is usually worse than even the problem they sketched out. Like you will do better most of the time by going with the regular company than you will by going with these goofy multi-level marketing. But let me answer your question. What is a multi-level marketing? So there's a criticism, first of all, that, well, let me get to what it is in theory. Like at its most ideal, multi-level marketing is where you have a product that you're selling. And one of the ways you help sell it is by rather than going through traditional marketing, like where you go and you put out print advertising, it's like sort of a social network of marketing. I sell to you. And then actually, Lex, not only can I sell to you, you can then go sell this product and you'll make money selling it. And you know what? To incentivize me to get other salesmen, because when I get another salesman, I'm actually giving myself competition. So that's bad. So to incentivize me to do that, they'll pay me part of what you make, right? And then you go out and you go, okay, well, I can sell this product. I also can get new salesmen to like sell for me, and I'm going to make money from you, whatever. So it goes down the line of you create multiple levels where you can profit from their marketing, right? The problem with this system is that, however well intentioned it is that usually the emphasis of that selling and making money ends up not being about the product at all and ends up entirely being about recruiting new people to recruit new people to recruit new people. That's the real way to make money in multi level marketing. This is where the very true criticism of most multi level marketing, if not all, are pyramid schemes in structure. Because what a pyramid scheme is it's all about I put in $500 and I recruit two people to put in $500 and that comes up to me and they get two people to put in $500 and it goes to them. And the reason it's a flawed business model is in order for it to work and everyone to make money, you'd have to assume an infinite human race.
Mhm.
And so that's not the case. Most people end up getting screwed in multi-level marketing and in pyramid schemes. That's what that is. That's that thing.
And the quality of the product, it doesn't necessarily matter what you're selling.
To people who are financially incentivized to like buy this thing.
Yeah, and so you're selling the dream of becoming rich
Yes.